Hello, welcome back. Thank you for joining me. We're going to have a very practice-centered discussion today about adversity on the path. It's always a good topic because we always seem to experience it in one form or another. Of course, this takes many, many forms. So let's talk about it as a practical matter from the standpoint of A Course in Miracles. Quite naturally, that's what this video series is about. If you thought it was something else, well, I invite you to stick around because you're here for a reason. Perhaps you're well aware of that reason, and perhaps you don't really know. You're just kind of scrolling through YouTube and you happen upon this weird looking channel, Reverend Tomas Garza. Who's that? Nobody. What's that? Nothing. Perhaps you're intrigued about A Course in Miracles. So, welcome. Whether you're a long time student or a beginning student or anything in between, or whether you have ever studied this course or not. Doesn't make any difference. It's universal in theme and application. There is a message here for you from your inner teacher, the Holy Spirit. So, should you choose, let's all stick around because it's meant just for you. You will know what that is. I have no idea what that will be, but you will know when you hear it. Let's talk about adversity on the path because we love to think that life is just going to be what they say in common parlance is rainbows and unicorns, a slow, sexy, luxurious glide through fantastic reality or something, a vacation that never ends, a hot, steamy, torrid love affair that knows no bounds, feasts, excellent bottles of wine, tropical or Mediterranean vacations, and lots of money, lots and lots. And we're actually surprised when we experience discomfort, even in the midst of these fancy vacations. Adversity comes up in our experience. So the question for us as course students is, how are we going to deal with it? There are events and circumstances in our lives that we cannot do anything about. They're scripted, you might say, that they're prepackaged or preordained. Such things as where we're born, the families that we're born into. We don't have any say at all over whether we're born into wealth or poverty or anything in between. Things like the prevailing political climate in the countries that we live in, whether or not we will experience wars, hardships, financial hardships, divorces, bitter breakups, things like that. These circumstances we can't do anything about on our own. On our own. There's a message in that on our own. Of ourselves, we can do absolutely nothing about it. What we can control, and we must realize that we can control this, is how we deal with the stuff as it arises. That you have full control over. If you think you don't, and you insist that you don't, that's totally your business. You're exercising that control to say that you don't have control. We discover on the spiritual path, no matter what your path looks like or has looked like in the past, that we can't continue to play the victim and expect anything positive to happen. We must bring an adult responsibility to the table. As I'm fond of saying, spirituality is for grown-ups, adults. It's an adult endeavor because we have to take a look at all of the stuff. Now, there's another word in the English language that begins with the letter S that is synonymous with stuff here. All of it. Bring it up. It will come up. Look at it and forgive it. See, we want to keep these little dark corners, these little, as the Course puts it, hidden hatreds, things like that, to ourselves. And we'd much rather not look at them because they're uncomfortable. Yet, how do we release this discomfort? By bringing it to light. How else? Adult endeavor. Doesn't matter if you shrink from this and never watch another one of these videos again. Doesn't matter if you take your course book, if you own one, close it and never open it again. In fact, you could throw it away or burn it if you want to. I don't know. However, we end up coming back to these ideas over and over again in one form or another, even if it's not for the remainder of this lifetime. It's your choice. That's the message. It is your choice. It is each of our choices as to how we handle the drama, the stuff that comes up for us. Understand something very simple that we would all do very, very well to accept. Very well indeed. Anything not wholly joyous, anything uncomfortable, anything that's a bummer, that sucks, that makes you upset, frustrated, sad, angry, perplexed, anything not wholly joyous is, in fact, an opportunity for forgiveness. We have many such opportunities every day. Our job, if you want to put it that way, is to recognize when we have such an opportunity and forgive. Quite simply, to seize the moment. And if you prefer this languaging, to take advantage of said opportunity, because it will come up. Perhaps it's coming up for you right now, and you're discovering that you need to forgive the messenger, the pixelated image on your screen, who may have said something that you don't agree with. All right. Or that you find troubling or provoking or goading or something. It's never up to anyone else how they take what you have to offer, right? All you have control of is what you offer and your frame of mind in the offering. Anything not wholly joyous is an opportunity to forgive. And of course, we all miss many such opportunities every day when we're carried away in stress and drama and life. Yet, when we remember to do it, you may say, when you have the presence of mind or the tranquility, the chill, the calmness of mind to remember to forgive, then instantly in that moment, forgive whatever's coming up in your experience that is not wholly joyous. This could take the form of a person. It could take the form of an event, a political party, an entire political season, election years, which, by the way, 2024 is a presidential election year in the United States, as I'm sure you're well aware. So There's a lot to forgive, no matter where one falls on this thing, which we've all made up, called the political spectrum. What's that? Nothing. Made up, like the entire world, and this, a body. So adversity comes at us. It is an opportunity for forgiveness. So, a very interesting and excellent, excellent question that frequently arises is, how do we know that we're doing this well? How do we know that we're really learning this course? Because I'm experiencing adversity all the frickin' time. Yes. Yeah. We all are. And the things that we don't think can happen to us or we prefer not to think about happen. Scripted. Happen. They take place. And how do we gauge what we call or what we refer to here in the world as our progress on the spiritual path? How do we know that this is working? Well, how quickly do you remember to forgive? And when you experience adversity, how do you respond? What is your demeanor? What is your body language? What is your posture? What do you say? And more importantly, what is your thought process? Do you rush to judgment or do you take a step back? Giving yourself some mental and psychological space, maybe to take a deep breath if that's what you want to do, but to give yourself a little gap between stimulus, adverse stimulus, and response. All too often, there's no gap, and we respond based on our habitual tendencies: judgment, blame, defensiveness, whatever the case may be. Spirituality is, in fact, about opening up this gap, so to speak. Of course, there's no gap in truth, but it's a useful analogy for us as students. Some time opened up, and again, there's no time. It's a useful analogy between stimulus and response. It's an opportunity to choose differently. It's an opportunity for you to choose the strength of Christ. About that. It's an opportunity to choose love, forgiveness, the Holy Spirit. It's an opportunity not to rush into it yourself, because of ourselves, we can't do anything about this stuff. What we can control is how we respond, what we think in the moment. And then we do something accordingly, but it begins in the mind. This is a course, after all, in mind training. It's not a course in body training. It's not about doing push ups and arm curls and hopping on the exercise bike for 30 minutes, getting out of the saddle and getting a good sweat. It's not about the body at all. What body? It's about the mind. Case in point, adversity comes at you. It appears to come at you. In fact, it's coming from you. Mm, that's one that we're not trained on as we grow up to be economic units of consumption in our modern societies. Wherever you live, consume, consume, produce, produce, produce what? Money, gross domestic product, all of these highly fictitious economic indexes that we so adore and worship here in the world. I'm just saying, we made it all up. We have the power, should you choose to accept it for yourself, to unmake it. It appears to happen a piece at a time, of course, one forgiveness opportunity after another, in what appears to be a linear succession. That's just an appearance. So while that is meaningful to us, while it appears to us that we're here running around as this thing that's 80% water that we give a name to and hold it so dear, thinking it's us. Gosh, you see one of the themes here. There is no world. No world. That's the central teaching of A Course in Miracles. Even as longtime students, we find we need to hear that again and again and again and again and again and again. Because today might be the day where you really make a leap in your forgiveness. That light, that proverbial light, may come on right now. You don't know. It will come on. When? We don't know. Maybe today. So continue to show up and forgive. Adverse circumstances, how can you tell that this is working? How loving are you? When a situation comes up, how do you respond to it? Now, here's something that's very, very interesting. How would you have responded to it a year ago, or 10 years ago, or even yesterday? This is always a useful gauge on the spiritual path when we feel, and we inevitably will feel, that this isn't working. It's not working. Nothing's happening. Oh, yes, it is. When a situation arises today, how do you respond to it? How would you have responded? How did you respond to similar situations when you began your spiritual practice? What's the difference? Do you notice a difference? Perhaps you do. Perhaps the same stimulus comes up for you and it doesn't bother you at all. You instantly begin to see the positives, the forgiveness opportunity, the love in a situation that's adverse. Now, you may not have felt that when you began your practice, whatever that is, whenever you began it. But that is a very, very instructive and very useful comparison for all of us to make on the path. Case in point, jobs and the loss of said jobs. I know, it happens. See, we discover here in the world nothing is ever a guarantee, and things that seem fixed and solid and lasting are not fixed at all. They're not solid, and they don't last. Case in point. I mean, it still appears to be here right now, but 100 years from now, it won't be. We don't know how long this thing's going to be running around, apparently animated and stuff. We don't know how long that's going to be. I mean, I once had a teacher when I was studying Buddhism, Lama Michael Conklin from Kagyu Changchub Chuling in Portland, Oregon, who said something really, really interesting one time facing a buffet loaded with treats. I don't know if I'm going to be alive for another 15 minutes. I'd better just have one more chocolate chip cookie. The instructive part, I don't know if I'm going to be alive for another 15 minutes. Nothing lasts. There's nothing fixed and lasting. So yesterday when I showed up for work, the one of the ladies that I used to work with was very, very nervous and pulled up a chair and began to speak to me. Yes, it was very clear what was going on. Layoffs, restructuring, corporate restructuring. It happens. And perhaps you have been laid off. Perhaps you have had the loss of economic sustenance and the prospect of said economic sustenance in your life. Perhaps you have, or perhaps you've never had to work a day in your life, whatever the case may be. It's something that many of us can relate to because we put so much energy into our jobs, into our careers, mostly because, well, we need the money to keep this roof over our head, to keep the internet turned on so the camera and microphone can come on and I can more effectively share the Holy Spirit with you on YouTube. Things, little things like that. So, how do you respond to a layoff, a corporate restructure? Well, I can tell you that prior to A Course in Miracles, I would have stewed and wallowed in my own self pity. Then that was one of the things that I did. I tend to be very calm in the moment. And of course, I was just yesterday, by the way, when all this went down at about 9 o'clock in the morning. First thing, happy Friday. It was Friday yesterday in North America. So before the course, I would have stewed for a long period of time and chosen not to see what happened as an opportunity. An opportunity for what? Well, not having studied the course, I would not have recognized it as an opportunity for forgiveness. And of course, we're fond of saying in the world when one door closes, another one opens. Yeah, very much so. But post course, it's an opportunity for forgiveness, which I was able to instantly recognize and remain calm and composed, which is a good thing. The calmer one is, the better in this conversation. That's the way it is. Calmer, the better decisions you can make, the more you can forgive and do what we all want to do. Wake up, want to go quickly, forgive, forgive, forgive. In a situation like this, one doesn't want to leave on bad terms in a fit of rage or hurling an F bomb laced tirade. Not that those thoughts don't arise. Don't get us all wrong. Yeah, but how you comport yourself is very telling because they're going to help me find the next job with references and personal introductions. So you don't want to mess that up and leave on bad terms. There are many things that come at us, and this is simply an example. It's what's coming up live. So then what do you do? Well, you open the next door under the guidance of the Holy Spirit, of course, who's running the entire show. So here's something we talked about things that are preordained or we can say scripted in this lifetime, such as getting the job that I used to hold in the first place, scripted, losing it abruptly due to corporate reshuffling and restructuring, which happens, doesn't it? Scripted. How I handle it, not scripted. I am in control of that. You're in control of these situations, not the situation happening, but how you respond to it. So here's something that's really, really beautiful of ourselves. There's nothing we can do about these big events coming up in our lives. However, what we can do when we learn our forgiveness lessons is we can allow the Holy Spirit to edit time for us, to shorten time. for us. How does this work? Once you learn a forgiveness lesson, you don't have to repeat it. If you don't learn it, it comes up again. We can see examples of this all over our lives. When we don't learn our lesson, it comes up for us again until we do. Comes up in one form or another until such time as we recognize the opportunity for what it is, an opportunity to forgive and release it and learn our lesson. Then we don't have to experience it. So the Holy Spirit can, if you want to think of this as a film, which is an apt visual, he can take a pair of scissors and clip components out of it. But let him do that. Let your inner teacher handle that. We have enough on our plates right now with recognizing an opportunity for true forgiveness and taking that opportunity. How do you know it's working? How calm are you? Do you see the possibilities? Which I certainly do. I mean, often that's the case when one door slams shut on us. Multiple additional doors open, multiple, many, many. And these videos, in fact, all of spirituality, comes down to our learning to relax and trust. Mm. Doesn't mean don't do something. We'll be instructed to do all kinds of things. You should see what I've got on my agenda, my to-do list for today. It's job search related. So there's a lot to do. But there are many ways that you can gauge, that you can tell that this is working. So it's a practical message for all of us. Because really, spirituality is all about practical experience. It's important, sure, to understand the ideas expressed in a document such as A Course in Miracles. It's another thing entirely to learn viscerally through your experience, through doing it. That's how we learn this course, in truth. It's by putting it into practice. So I hope that this conversation will help you along the way to doing just that. Now, if you have comments or questions, I'm very, very interested, as always, in what's coming up for you live. So if you have questions, please feel welcome to leave them. And I want to thank those of you who have recently subscribed and joined us. If you have not, I invite you to do that. This is the prompt right here in the corner of your screen. Click that arrow, and you'll be invited to do just that. Subscribe, join us. Several videos appear each week, and while we're going through the text of A Course in Miracles, I'm always happy to take a pause, whether it's a short or a lengthy pause out of that procession, to address what's coming up for you live. Very important. I'm here to help with that. So, questions if you've got them, and I will talk to you soon.